Today we're going to read New Friends in a New Land, a Thanksgiving story by Judith Bauer Stamper, Alex Haley, General Editor. The illustrations are by Chet Jerzierski, and it is published by Raintree Steck Vaughn Publishers. New Friends in a New Land. A note from Alex Haley, General Editor. Before people are friends or enemies, they are strangers. They don't know each other. They have only just met. They might look a little different to one another. Their way of doing things might be a little different. Having met, then they decide, friends or enemies. How this question is answered is the story of New Friends in a New Land. It is a Thanksgiving story with a lesson for us all. You are always thankful for your friends, but never for your enemies. Choose friendship. This is a nice big family picture. Demarius Hopkins sat on her father's knee in front of the kitchen fire. Beside her, Mrs. Hopkins held baby Oceanus. Her brother Giles and sister Constance sat nearby. It was the year 1621. Just a few months ago, Demarius had come to America from England. She and her family had sailed on a ship called the Mayflower. Now they lived in a village named Plymouth. Demarius looked into the fire and wished for the 100th time that winter was over. She knew that food was running short, people were dying of sickness, and everyone worried about the Indians. The Indians had lived on the land around Plymouth first. What would happen if they wanted their land back? Demarius shivered and drew closer to her father. Her father hugged her, and her mother gave her a smile. Demarius smiled bravely back. A few days later, Demarius woke up early and pushed open the front door. The sun was just coming up over the rooftops. Demarius sniffed the air. Something was different about it. It smelled like spring. Demarius ran outside and shouted that spring was here. Oceanus started to cry, but the rest of the family laughed. After her morning chores, Demarius ran outside to watch Father and Giles. They were adding thatch to the roof. Just then, Demarius looked down the street, and she could hardly believe her eyes. A tall Indian was walking into Plymouth. "Welcome, Englishman," he said. Demarius hid behind a fence and watched him. He carried a bow and 2 arrows. His black hair hung long in the back. The Indian called himself Samoset. He had learned some English from explorers. He was eager to talk to the pilgrims, and they had many questions to ask him. The pilgrims were glad that Samoset could talk to them in English. Samoset told them about the land where Plymouth was built. The Patuxet Indians had cleared it, but they had all died of a great sickness. After that, no other Indians wanted that land. The pilgrims were glad to have Samoset as a friend. They gave him cheese, biscuits, and duck to eat, and they gave him a coat to wear. Demarius watched Samoset all day. He seemed friendly. But Demarius knew almost nothing about Indians. She felt a little afraid, but curious at the same time. The sun began to set in the sky. Mrs. Hopkins came running in to tell the children the news. She said that Samoset was spending the night in their house. The tall Indian walked through the door. Demarius did not know what to expect. She hid in the shadows and stared. Samoset saw her hiding and smiled. Mrs. Hopkins gave Samoset a rug to sleep on. Samoset wrapped it around his body. Soon he was sound asleep. But Demarius did not go to sleep for a long time. The next day, Samoset prepared to leave. He promised to come back to Plymouth again, and he kept his word. A short time later, he came back with a man named Squanto. Squanto spoke English very well. At one time, he had been kidnapped and taken to England by ship. Demarius listened to Squanto's story with great surprise. The English had done him a great wrong, yet he still wanted to be their friend. The next day, a chief named Massasoit came to Plymouth with 60 Wampanoag Indians. Massasoit's face was painted a dark red. He wore a deer skin over one shoulder and white bone beads around his neck. The Pilgrims put out a great welcome. They played the trumpet and the drums. They gave Massasoit food and drink. Squanto helped the Pilgrims talk with the Wampanoags. By the end of the day, they signed a treaty. They promised to live as friends in peace. After that, Demarius stopped being afraid of the Indians. She became good friends with Squanto. He showed Demarius how to play an Indian game called hubbub. Demarius got so good at it that she could beat Squanto. Squanto stayed at Plymouth all spring and summer. He showed the Pilgrims how to dig for clams in the mud by the bay. He showed them how to plant corn seed with dead fish to make the plants grow, and he knew which wild berries were good to eat. Soon, the days grew shorter and colder. Demarius kept busy helping store food for the winter. She picked ears of corn in the field. She helped salt codfish for winter meals, and she laid out fruit to dry in the summer sun. The Pilgrims knew, look at this feast. The Pilgrims knew it was time to give thanks to God and their Indian friends. They decided to have a harvest feast. Everyone worked to get ready. Mr. Hopkins went out hunting. He came back with ducks, geese, and turkey. Mrs. Hopkins baked cornbread and cooked a big pot of fish soup. Demarius picked herbs from the kitchen garden. She added wood to the cooking fires, and she begged Squanto to bring some Indian children to the feast. On the big day, here's the big day, they're all sitting down at the table. On the big day, Massasoit walked to the Plymouth with 90 men. The Pilgrims knew there would never be enough food to go around, and Massasoit fixed that problem by sending his men out hunting. They came back with 5 deer to roast over the open fire. Before sitting down to eat, the Pilgrims and the Wampanoags gave thanks. Then they began the feast. Demarius ate until her stomach hurt. The feast went on for 3 days. Demarius played tug-of-war and pillow-pushing with other Pilgrim children. She watched the Wampanoags dance and sing. Best of all, she saw a Wampanoag girl who was about her own age. The girl was playing hubbub with her brother. Demarius went up to watch, and soon she was playing with them. At sunset on the 3rd day, the Wampanoags went home. Demarius waved goodbye as they walked into the woods. Her new friend turned around and waved back. That night, Demarius fell into bed, tired and happy. It had been a wonderful time of Thanksgiving. Like Demarius, we give thanks each year. On Thanksgiving Day, we join our family and friends for feasting and fun. We remember the Pilgrims who started a new life in America. We remember the Indians who helped them. And we remember children like Demarius who worked and played at the first Thanksgiving. Thanksgiving Day is one of our national holidays. It is celebrated on the fourth Thursday of November. During this holiday, we spend time with friends and family. Even before 1621, the Spanish and English settlers had their own Thanksgiving celebrations. Squantos people also celebrated Thanksgiving holiday. Each was different, but each was a way of giving thanks for family, for food, and for life. In 1863, which was during the Civil War, President Abraham Lincoln made Thanksgiving Day a national holiday. He knew that it was important to celebrate the good in life even during difficult times. Today, more than ever, Thanksgiving Day is an important day to celebrate. It is a special time that you can share with your family, with your friends, and with all the people of the world.